So, a little bit more on aerodynamics. Your aerodynamics are going to be predominantly the biggest force to overcome as a solo cyclist. There's another force that you have to overcome, though, that comes close, and that is inertia. I'm going to be talking about both, and mostly aerodynamics in this little finishing of the video series about all that kind of stuff. So, your best bet on being more aerodynamic on the bike is to crouch down, to change your hip position and everything. It does depend on your situation, but generally speaking, you want your hands on the hoods, and your hands should really be, okay, like this. Alright, relaxed over the hood like this. That's what's most aerodynamic. Okay, this comes pretty close. Alright, with your fingers kind of out like that, whatever. Maybe your fingers are gripping. Okay, but this tends to be really aerodynamic for your overall body. Okay, this is even more aerodynamic. Okay, my right hand's holding the camera, but you know, a mirrored image of this is more aerodynamic. It's extremely uncomfortable, but it is the most aerodynamic you can be, and that's why if you have, you know, those handlebars, time trial bars, or whatever you want to call them, it will really help your speed, overcoming aerodynamics. Okay, that's going to be your best bet. When you're descending, you want your hands in the dropouts, and the real reason is it lowers your center of gravity, which helps you go around turns. If there are no turns in the descent, I still feel much more comfortable going 60 when my hands are in the drops than when they're like relaxed on the top. So relaxed on the top is for 20s to 30s, but over 50 miles an hour, you want your hands in the dropouts. In my experience, it gives me more power and stuff. You can still put your hands on the hoods, but also the other thing is whether or not your elbows are bent, because my elbow's going to be bent, okay, if my hands are on the hoods like this. But if my hands are in the dropouts, my elbows aren't going to be bent that much. And that can be much easier, especially your triceps, and that's why I mentioned triceps before, and upper body strength. My triceps are going to be a lot less sore. My shoulders are going to be less sore. Now, really the key is, especially when you're trying to become elite or something, the key is the back strength and the core stability, so that your upper body is actually being supported by your lower body. And that's what really relieves your front body. But when your lower body and core does not have that strength, hands in the dropouts sometimes is what's best. Okay. Also, lowering the position of your stem is only worth it if you're capable of reaching the dropouts. I mean, if you're riding all the time, full extension, okay, in the hoods, on the hoods like this, then you don't need to lower. You want to be able to, sometimes at least, go into the dropouts. Okay? Most of the pros go into the dropouts when they're going into turns and kind of stay on the hoods the rest of the time. But you also have to understand that their hoods are a lot farther down than yours, which kind of irrelevates my last comment that your handlebars should be high enough that you're able to reach the dropouts, because basically pros' hoods are where your dropouts are. But this isn't the pros, and I'm going to stop talking about the pros because it's a different kind of sport for them than it is for all other humans. So there's a lot of ways to negate your aerodynamics altogether. You can ride behind other riders. Now that's when inertia really takes over, because if they go ahead and accelerate, yes, they're blocking the wind, but you have to accelerate to keep up with them. If they're accelerating, with 600 watts instead of the normal pace in the group, which was like 300 watts-ish, depending on your size and whatnot, which is actually false, okay? If you're on flat land, watts determine your speed, period. That's it, end of story. It's watts in aerodynamics, not watts in weight. Weight doesn't matter as much. Okay, it matters with inertia, which means acceleration, but once you get up to 30 miles per hour, which takes you longer, so technically you'll be slower in the race, but once you get up to 30, it's the same amount of watts for everybody, except there's a little bit more when you're heavier because of rolling resistance. And the tires and then the bearings, there's a little bit more resistance with a little bit more weight. And with a lot more weight, it could equate to a lot more resistance. Okay? But if you're the same weight as somebody, well, I guess you wouldn't be the same weight as somebody. So that would negate my point. But the point is, it's not that much. Watts per kilo doesn't matter nearly as much on the flats. Okay, it's really overall watts. Okay, it's been easy for me to do the 300s, mid 300s in watts and hold that for long periods of time. So I I would weigh around 180 pounds. I'm actually in a phase where I'm trying to get fitter, but I don't quite weigh that right now, but I have definitely in the past, and weighing 180 and having a constant output of 350 is not proportionate to somebody like who weighs 150 and has the equivalent power for weighing 150. You have to understand that. That's not nearly as fast as me. That's what I'm saying. Because 350 will be, 70 watts more than that. And I might be overcoming rolling resistance, which is another maybe 20 watts. But that's not at all. That's just 20 watts, alright? It'll be just, 20 watts, for example. Maybe even 10 watts or something like that. Okay, so if I'm doing 70 watts more, even if it's the same watts per kilo, I'm still going to be able to go much, much faster on flat land. That's why heavier riders tend to do better on flat land. Okay, not heavier because of fat, though. Heavier because of muscle. Moving on. To overcome aerodynamics completely, we can just go ahead and drive behind a car, okay? And that's exactly, I ride with the bus, okay? I'm going to do a bus ride behind the bus ride today, actually, hopefully, to help me get downtown and stuff. And I got to tell you, when you do that, you still have to overcome the other forces. The rolling resistance don't matter too much. Really, inertia is what matters. Because to get me from 10 to 20 miles per hour in 2 or 3 seconds, like the bus can do, I have to do over 800 watts. Alright? When I do over 800 watts, I have to really be very physically strong to do that. Do it consistently. And then once you catch up to the truck, you're still having to overcome a little bit extra force at like 30, 40 miles an hour from the tires and the bearings and stuff. Okay? Which would be, for example, maybe it's 80 more watts than I'd be going if I was going 20. So if I want to go 40 miles per hour, I'm going to be maybe having to push out 185 watts. Maybe. Let's just throw a number out there. 180 watts. Even once I've caught up to the vehicle, and it's protecting me from most of the air. Now, here's the thing about air. Air is not 1 + 1 = 2. A lot of people think that because they're they don't understand. Like in NASCAR, look up NASCAR. NASCAR will tell you this. NASCAR will definitely tell you. Alright? When you are being drafted by somebody else, you're getting slowed down. I'm going to use some percentage numbers that are pretty close to the truth, and you can look these up. And those percentages will change depending on what kind of position you have, and several other things. But when you're riding your bike, you're creating vortexes from your butt, that's here, alright? You're creating vortexes around you. The reason why somebody goes behind you and slows you down is because they extend those vortexes, okay? By creating small ones towards the front of their body and creating a higher pressure zone, okay? Those vortexes then come in, and once they approach you, that high pressure zone reduces in pressure. That reduction in pressure goes into a vacuum that sucks you back. And I'm not kidding. If you've ever been drafted by a bike at high enough speeds, you can feel the wind difference. Okay, you're going 30 miles an hour, somebody comes up and starts drafting you, you'll suddenly start going 28, 27, 26 miles per hour because there are forces there slowing you down. Okay, there's just no such thing as a free lunch. You can't just get behind a bus and that doesn't affect the bus at all. Now in the bus, it's kind of like jumping on Earth. Okay, when you jump on Earth, you're like the gravitational equivalent to an atom jumping inside of your body. It's very, very, very small. So when you get behind a bus, their aerodynamic resistance doesn't really decrease that much when you go behind them. Now here's the thing. Two riders riding in sync. Okay, it isn't a 30% advantage to the person behind the rider in front. And this is just for two riders, okay? It's not a 30% advantage. That's a common mistake. It's more like 80%. They're literally 80% more aerodynamically efficient behind somebody than with nobody in front of them. Now here's the catch. This is why it's only a 30 or 40% increase in efficiency. The person in front reduces their efficiency by 40% if you're riding about 1 foot behind them. Okay? So if your front wheel is about a foot behind their back wheel, like this, then you're looking at a total of a 40% increase in efficiency between the two of you. Because you go 80% faster, they go 40% slower, that's 40%. Now here's the catch to all this, and this is where it gets complicated. You wind up creating more vortexes than what help you when you approach from that 1 foot. So if you come in 6 inches, or even cross wheels, then your efficiency increases maybe to 90 or 95%. That's cute. That's 10 or 15% more. The problem is, instead of being a 40% lag on them, you become a 50 or even a 60% lag. So answer that math. If you're getting 90% benefit, but they're getting a 50% lag, then it's still, well, that would still be 40%. It's going to be more like a 60% lag. So if they're getting a 60% lag when you're getting 90% benefit, that means that you two are now 30% more efficient instead of 40%. Okay? And usually in the real world, approaching a cyclist within that 18 inches is going to reduce your overall riding efficiency, because it means that in order for him to go faster, he has to go anaerobic. In order for him to maintain like the person in front of you to maintain 35 miles per hour, for example, when you come up behind him, he has to go anaerobic. And there's your problem. You want him to be going aerobically at, for example, 30 miles per hour, and to help you quite a bit without hurting him too much. So if it's a teammate you're drafting, then you definitely don't want to draft too close, because even though that helps you more, it hurts them more than it helps you. Okay, so it'll be like those numbers. Okay, so 8 out of 10 when you're a foot behind turns to 9 out of 10 when you're 0 inches behind, when your wheel is pretty much crossing over. Okay, but their lag goes from 40% to 60%. Okay, so instead of 40% overall benefit, and like I just said, it's not just that, it's also trying to make sure that the leading rider stays aerobic and doesn't go into too much of anaerobic outputs. So if he has to hold 500 watts to keep that up, that's where you're going to have a problem with pooling. So, and that's critical. So that's a little bit of talk on aerodynamics. Well, it's a lot of talk. Okay, not the best at making videos, but this is just as a response to some of the videos I've seen on what makes you faster. That's about it.